who presented some information. I wanted to just give you a perspective of, in 2019, some cancer facts and figures, right? In 2019, there will be an estimated 1.7 million new cancer cases diagnosed and 606,000 cancer deaths in the United States. That's the extent of impact we are seeing. And then there are more than 15.5 million Americans with a history of cancer who are alive on January 2016. Most of them were diagnosed many years ago and have no evidence of cancer. That's a big number. And an estimated 11,000 new cancer cases will be diagnosed among children. So it's not just adults, right? So even between 0 and 14 years, there are 11,000 cases in 2019. And as of January 2019, an estimated 1.9 million adult ages 85 and older were alive with a history of cancer, representing 1/3 of all men and 1/4 of all women in the age group in the United States. So it's a big, just to give you perspective on the different types of cancers in male and female, the number, and also you can see the percentage. Among men, prostate is about 20%, and among females, it's about 30% for breast cancer. And see, you can see, Harini keeps telling me with her experience, yes, we have to be hopeful, but also we have to see the statistics of how bad it is. What is the risk, especially when you take all sides, meaning all different cancers, 1 in 3 can get this disease, right? And then we have the percentage and the numbers for different types of cancers. So it is something we all need to pay attention, we all need to do something. And then this is among females. You can see the breast cancer is still 1 in 8, but overall it's 1 in 3. The good news is, at least from 1975 to now, there has been improvement in the 5-year relative survival rate. That's, as Dr. Shaheen talked about, there is hope, there is a lot of improvements, advancement. We still need to continue to work on it. A lot of the things we don't know, but there is still hope. So I have 10 panelists today, and I will provide a brief introduction in the interest of time. I was going to go through some detailed background of them, but in the interest of time, I'm going to cut down on the profile, but really get into the question itself so we can buy some time. So we have Dr. Shaheen. She's a clinical assistant professor of oncology medicine at Stanford University of Medicine. Thank you, Dr. Shaheen, for attending this. We have Dr. Vipulendu Jaina. He is a cancer immunology research investigator. He just recently moved to San Diego. I happened to meet him in Thai meeting, and I invited him, and he was more than welcome to take this offer, and he is spending time with us. He's a busy man, but we appreciate your presence here. And then we have Namrata Chansarkar, licensed acupuncturist, and she's a cancer survivor. Thank you. I listened to your radio address recently. She is a bundle of energy to the community, and she's doing a lot of good work. She has a clinic in Encinitas, and so from her experience, she's doing a lot of help to the community. We have Mrs. Srini Eravelli. She's a mother and caregiver who lost a loved one. That's her husband, our friend Srini. And then Dr. Jim Dolter, you just heard him. He's a retired Qualcomm senior director. He's a stage 4 cancer survivor. Mr. Aaron Lamb, I came to know of him recently. He's a Qualcomm engineer also. He's a stage 4 prostate cancer survivor. Thank you for being here. And we have Mrs. Sandy Huang Adam. She's a tech CMO, reformed McKinsey consultant, cancer. So you also had something on your LinkedIn. You said you have a hair like Jim Carrey or something like that, right?
I did have hair like Jim Carrey for a while.
Wow, okay. I was looking for that hair. Good.
In Dumb and Dumber, yeah.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah, good. Thanks for being here. And then we have Ren Zhu. She's the ex-Qualcomm employee. She works in the financial industry, and she's a cancer survivor. You must be very proud of your daughters, right? You have two. She has 2 grown-up daughters. One studied in Harvard, one in Princeton, right? So you must be super happy and proud of them, right? Thank you. Thanks for being here. And then we have Anil Srivatsa. He's a champion for the cause of organ donation. It's another coincidence. I happened to talk to him yesterday. He is traveling from India. He's already traveled 43 countries. He's on the way to doing another 150 miles of travel in his own car. So he's just happened to be in San Diego, just passing by. And I happened to meet him and invite him to this event. He accepted it. He's here. Thank you for being here. And so I invite you, all of you, and we'll have, Shalini, sorry. I again forgot. Shalini Mahika. Shalini Mahika is a good friend of mine, and I used to know her husband, Murli. I spent a lot of time with him. Thank you for being here. And she is also doing a lot of good work for the community, sharing her experiences. Thanks. So I'll skip the profiles in that brief introduction. So what I'll do now is I'll go through the first round of questioning for each one of you. And time permitting, we can get to general questions, but certainly if any of you have any questions, we'll entertain those. First, I want to thank Srini Eravelli, right? It's because of him, it's giving us all this energy and motivation to do good work, right? I want to be remembering him every second when I'm doing this, and that's the energy we get. And I appreciate Harini giving me this opportunity. And let's, okay. So let me get to the questioning part. First, let me start with Dr. Jaina. I know with MD Anderson, that being a premier institution, and a lot of work is being done on the new advancement of the medicine, and also studying the different types of cancers and how best you can do. In your experience and research activity, what can you share with our audience about what is being done in the advanced medicine, what hope is there, some of the newer things you're doing from an experiment point of view, and if you can share some thoughts for about a couple of minutes.
First of all, I'm really amazed by the audience and the Srini Eravelli Foundation. It's a very noble work, and it's really amazing to see the effort they have taken, because I work in a non-profit organization for the most of my career, and I'm a cancer immunotherapy researcher. Basically, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a scientist. So, in the interest of time, I'll speak briefly on the questions asked. We consider that chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, they have done a good job, but that's not enough. That's the standard of care right now. But the cancer is such a complicated disease that the more we treat the cancer, there is always a chance of relapse, because they are like so smart. They arise from within the body, from the single cell state, and they can migrate, as you know, metastasize to places and hit somewhere where the conventional drugs or even the radiation cannot reach. So what we have been doing is that we have, we and others in the field, we have been thinking of that there is an immune component attached to it. Because as we have discussed so far, that there is a personalized approach. Cancer is very different from person to person. So for a long time, scientists even did not believe that immune system has got any role to play. But as you have seen from the speakers, you can really fight it out from within yourself. So the specific field I'm working on is cell and gene therapy. That means we can use the body's own cell by genetic engineering and use it against the cancer. Okay, so what will happen is we have created a synthetic biology system in you can tailor the body's certain type of cells called T cells to target the cancer cell. Basically what we are trying to do is re-educating the immune system to recognize and kill instead of a chemotherapy drug, instead of the radiation therapy. And as far as the hope is concerned, there are hopes. Broadly, we categorize the cancer as solid tumor and non-solid tumors. Non-solid tumors are hematologic malignancies, they are blood-borne cells which become cancerous. So we have really a great deal of success in terms of hematologic malignancies, in terms of CAR-T technology, immunotherapy technology, checkpoint inhibitor technology. So if you know someone who is got affected with some kind of cancer, don't lose hope, just fight it on. As you can see by the great presentation from Jim, that he is talking like a scientist now. He is investigating so long, and he can ask you so many smart questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions to your oncologist. Try to get involved into support groups, try to read yourself, or try to get into people who actually have been doing advanced research. So you can actually fight it out, because cancer is a very personalized disease. That's one thing. And as we have been, Jim and me, we have been talking about that, there is a lot of information, but there is no information which is filtered it out, right? For example, the diseases which are orphan diseases, because there is no interest for the pharma companies to work with that. So those kind of diseases, you have to really seek for really specific expertise. So the basic take-home message is that we have been working on different kind of genetic engineering technology by modifying the immune cells to fight cancer, and we have been success in certain type of blood cancer, but not all kind of, like CLL, which is chronic lymphocytic leukemia, ALL, which is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So certain leukemia can be cured completely, and there are instances you can type on like cancer immunotherapy advances. So basic point is, by hearing the name cancer, don't leave it like that, because every cancer is different, every person is different, and there is research ongoing. But given the scope of the funding situation, given the scope of government rules and stuff like that, it takes a long time to bring lab research to patients. It takes sometimes 10 to 15 years. But there are clinical trials which is ongoing in the medical center. So what you can do is, if you can enroll yourself in a clinical trial, probably there is a chance of getting the advanced form of treatment. But that is again not the standard of care. So basic take-home message is, there is always a hope, but you have to know your cancer, you have to know yourself, you have to know your doctor, and don't forget to ask questions. That's all I can say in a brief time.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, my next question is to Dr. Namrata Chansarkar. So, Doctor, based on your experience, right? Just recently I heard your radio interview. First of all, I was hiking at that time, I was listening to it, so much of positive energy, and how you have taken a change in your profession, right? You were a scientist, and then you went into Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and you're experimenting on yourself, and then now treating others. So if you can share some insight on your journey for the last few years, and also touch on this alternative medicine you're using, and how you're seeing that as an impactful compared to what Dr. Shaheen and Jim has talked about, the regular allopathy medicine. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really humbled to be here. Thank you. I'm really humbled to be here. As I was listening. Thank you. I'm really humbled to be here. As I was listening to the second presentation of Jim, I felt I relived some of my memories and they came back. My breast cancer was really early stage. Stage 1 is considered today like it has really good prognosis, and everybody kind of knows the survival is very good after that. But when I was diagnosed, I was young and there was no family history. So it takes a toll on you in terms of what life is giving you. It really made me question what is the purpose of my life. It really made me think of who I am as a person rather than what I am doing. Before cancer and after cancer, I think I'm a different person. Before I used to just do things because I need to do it. Now before I do everything, I question why am I doing this. So that is a big shift in approach. I went through a lot of things Jim brought up, so I won't repeat, like meditation and emotions, and like how insomnia is so common in all cancer patients and their families, like their spouses especially. I didn't need chemo, so I didn't have the chemo brain, but I did go through a very rigorous treatment to prevent and treat my cancer, which was more hormonal, and the suppression of estrogen was the treatment I received along with the forced menopause. And that was the time I literally went on short-term disability, although until then, until all the surgeries, everything I was holding very strong. And as I say this, I think I I just learned a lot from that experience, I would say. And the fear is always there. Once you hear the word cancer, the fear is always there when it comes back. That's how it was. But now I say that life has taught me so much that that fear has reduced to a very small percentage, because I'm living every day in a way I say, okay, did I really do what makes me happy? So the bottom line that I am living today is based on, okay, so what makes me happy? Like if you would have asked me to come to this meet 11 years ago, I would have said, no, today is Diwali, it would make me sad, I'm not going to go. And today here I am because I cancelled a lot of other engagements so that I can be part of this.
With that thought, right, you all heard about the background, about the
Right.
seriousness. I just want to point out, just in the last probably 4 to 6 weeks, I personally have reached out to 4,000 households in San Diego, 4,000, right? Sharing the information, inviting them, sending multiple invitations, and sharing the importance of it, right? It's hard to get, right? When you're in a normal cycle, you don't want to shift that thought, right? You don't want to change the priority, right?
It's not just normal cycle, like I used to go to cancer support groups a lot because I think I'm very blessed. I met the right people at the right time. And the timing is everything, I feel. Like if you don't do the right thing at the right time and don't meet the right people, you don't really get the insight and the resources that you need. And as he said, you have to ask good questions all the time. And being a scientist, this acupuncture degree that I have is, I can keep account, maybe my 4th or 5th graduate degree. So I had been a perpetual student all my life. And I was working on cancer drug as a scientist at Biogen IDEC when I was diagnosed with cancer. So the reason I'm putting this in perspective is, when you're so caught up with science, a lot of times you forget to live and you forget to be who you are. But today when I used to go to these cancer meets, I used to feel very drained when I came home. But I was invited by the person who was leading it. She was an energy healer and I have received a lot of free sessions from her, and she kept telling me, I was still working at that time, she kept telling me, no, you have to come. I will send you the healing if you need it, if you feel drained, but you have to come. And at that time I just went for her. There was no other intention, because every time I went to the cancer support group, and this is a confession, I felt like, oh my gosh, am I going to be like that? I'm going to be stage 4, say 10 years down. Like you always go through those roller coasters, and those are real roller coasters that keeps you awake in the night because you don't know what the prognosis is. But what I learned from that is that it doesn't matter what happens tomorrow if you don't do things that make you happy today. And I have a lot of friends who are breast cancer and other cancer survivors. And when I talk to them to come to say Balboa Park walk, which I try to go, they say, oh, I will donate money, but I feel like really overwhelmed when I come there. And I get it, and I never force them. And I said, no, I'm not asking for money here. I just want you to come so that you can create awareness with other people that they need to take care of their health. And how you take care of health is a question that we still don't know. So what I say is live from your heart, live with fullness, and live so that you have no regrets.
Very good advice.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also say I do, especially now that I'm an acupuncturist and my own health issues really got me to become an acupuncturist, because I was having a lot of side effects, and finally my oncologist, I used to go and complain to her anything that I'm not happy, I can't take this drug. And she was really afraid because the compliance with that drug with young women is very poor. So she was really afraid I'm going to quit taking this drug. So she said, okay, why don't you try this? She would send me to, it was not science-based, but it was helpful that she sent me to acupuncture. She said, there's a free clinic, which is just for cancer patients, so why don't you try? And I was willing to try anything and everything that will keep me happy and make me feel happy and stable. So I went and I tried, and just a couple of treatments, I started feeling, okay, my migraine is gone, my arthritis is gone, and I'm feeling normal. I feel like I can live now. I don't have to feel like a like, I don't want to put an age number, but I don't want to feel so old that I can't go up and down the stairs without taking support. That is debilitating if I have to do that. So, and when I was going through this journey, those 5-6 years before I joined the acupuncture school, I did a lot of reading. I tried every kind of healing. I went for meditative walks. I did chanting. I went for healing Raj Yoga. I did everything I could to make myself feel stable at that time. And the word I use stable is because there's no perfect health. We always have challenges. They could be emotional, they could be physical, they could be at different levels. But when you feel like you are stable or you can do it, you don't give up, especially in the world of cancer. That positive attitude is very, very important. And that's the message I would like to share.
Thank you. Live in the moment,
Yes.
right?
Live in the moment and never give up.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So let's give a mic to Srini Eravelli. Srini's experience comes from, as I mentioned before, she's a mother of 2 sons, and she lost a loved one, Srini. So her experience is different, a little bit different. From your perspective, Srini, take a deep breath. I know this is hard, right? But it's so important to share with people, and it helps, right? So from your perspective, we know kind of, I used to meet you and Srini was on the trail, and we used to hike together, and all of a sudden it happens. It only took like 3 months, right? From 0 to like 100. So it went so fast. So from your perspective, dealing with that, going to the hospital, going through the protocols, deciding what to do, and then at the same time dealing with the family, dealing with the kids and the finances and all that. It's hard, right? For some families it's taken, and I've been with some families who have taken 7 years, 10 years, 15 years. It's a long time. But in your case it was like 3 months. It went so fast, right? Can you share some thoughts on how you manage from your perspective in that scenario?
I mean, there is no perfect plan, you can plan so much. So it's just like 3 months, right? Oh, sorry, I thought I could keep it, but it's not that easy. Yeah, I mean, things happen and you have learned to deal with it. You cannot plan certain things. Obviously, you cannot plan for a diagnosis, right? He got the worst kind of diagnosis, like Dr. Shaheen was talking about. Neurocrine tumor, undifferentiated. His mitotic index was beyond the charts. It was not even 20% like Dr. Shaheen was talking about. So when that kind of thing happened, it's like atom bomb on your family, right? You don't know what to do. But I had a lot of family support is needed. And thanks to Qualcomm, he had an excellent insurance, and that helps. The financial problem was not an issue for me, but still I had issues. We tried everything. At the end, we tried Keytruda. Insurance said no, but we paid out of our pocket. Fortunate that I could do that. So there is no perfect plan, but having finances, having everything in order, having an open relationship about finances, those kind of help. And the relationship with your kids, right? We were always open with the kids. We never protected them from bad news or anything. So we sat down and we talked. My kids knew every step, what's going on. And I knew, being an engineer and a scientist, that his chances are less. But we tried everything. Those 3 months were hard, but that's all you could do, right? You have to take it at the face value and live by it. And family helps, I had an excellent family support system from work everywhere. My boss was there for me. So all these things do help, and there is no magic formula. We have a good relationship with your family, your friends, community. Have that one good friend you can reach out anytime. Have that one person. You don't need 1,000 friends. All you need that group of set of people who can just pour your heart out and talk. And obviously, if you have sisters like my sisters, then you are safe. Yeah, that's all I can say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I know it's very hard. Dr. Shaheen, in that particular case, right, it's a rare disease. It happens so fast. By the time you try to understand what's going on and reset all your daily activities and work with your neighbors or friends, can you share some light on what families can do in that situation? Is there like a roadmap of what they can do, or it's everybody has to go through searching? From your perspective, on the doctor's perspective, can you share some thoughts?
Yeah, so especially in poorly differentiated neuroendocrine tumors, as I said, it's very aggressive. You don't have much time, and you're never prepared for this diagnosis, so you never have a plan made what to do. But what I would say at the time of diagnosis, allocating things to your family, like if someone is a good researcher or someone has good, they know how to search things, maybe allocate that to that person. Well, you have kids that need help to drive them, allocate a person that you think is appropriate for that job. Like, just allocate things, try to decrease your burden because it's a big diagnosis, not only for the patient to endure, and now he's thinking, what is my stage, what am I doing next? Does the doctor that I just saw know much about what I have? And then the family is scrambling to find an expert and things like that. So I would say there are a lot of things that you have to do in a very short amount of time, and allocating things that you think is best for one person to do, as opposed to giving something that doesn't need a lot of thinking or expertise. Maybe allocate those to the other people in the family. So that is, I would say, the family kind of support system. You're grieving, but at the same time you have to get up and be practical and say, no, I don't have time, so I have to do things. This has to happen in this framework, and then this has to happen, and this. So kind of make a roadmap.
From your perspective, I've seen families, and this is from a patient side, not from the doctor side, right? They are not confident with one source. They want to take second opinion, they want to take third opinion, it's their life, right? So from your perspective, what makes sense? Should they stick to one? Should they be spending time looking at 2, 3 different options before seriously considering one?
So I would say, look at it in a way, if you have this rare disease where someone has given you an idea, it's very fast growing. In that way, I would say, if you see your community oncologist, be upfront with them. Tell them that it's kind of urgent and very important for us to know how much you have, what is your experience in treating, if it's a rare cancer, what is your experience in the last year, how many patients of such diagnosis have you treated, how comfortable or how confident or how comfortable are you in giving us a plan. If you think that, usually the oncologist will be very upfront for you. He will say, this is a rare disease, I have maybe in my career seen 1 or 2, and in the last 1 year, I haven't seen anything. The reason I bring that up is because the research is upcoming and we know more about things, there may be mutation, there may be clinical trials. So he may not have seen a similar patient in the past 2 years, so he may not be really up to date on, so those, and then you can ask him if he can guide you to a specialist if he has not had much experience with that. But the other way to look at it is, while you're doing that and you're finding an expert and you're trying to go and see the expert, you can always partner. Like, the expert may be very far, and if you're getting chemotherapy every 2 weeks, it's not very practical. But what we do at Stanford, we partner with the oncologists, their local oncologists. We give them a treatment plan. We give them, do this, and then in 2 months, the patients can come back, do a scan, and then we'll see if it's working or not. If things need to be tweaked, changed, and we think about maybe clinical trial, then we will recommend that at that visit. So partnering with them, but I would say making sure, especially in a rare cancer, that your oncologist has enough expertise in that rare tumor.
Okay, thank you. That's my question. So then, from the mic on, or just the mic? Is it on? Okay. So, based on your experience, right? You were in the working for Qualcomm, and then you switched to financial services industry, and now you're actively working with families for them to be financially independent and all that. So, now in your own experience, you have gone through the financial aspects. Now we have more knowledge in the financial industry. So, what are some hints, pointers you can give to families in the area of how to plan for finance, how to be prepared, and what are some of the advices you are giving to the families?
Thank you. First, I'm very honored to speak here. English is not my first language, and if I didn't say something clear, if you have questions, you can always ask me later. First, I want to take this opportunity to I can't say the name really right.
Srini?
Yes,
Srini.
so thank you so much for organizing this kind of awareness events, right? The foundation, yes, and the organizer and all the speakers, all the volunteers, right? I think it's helped me a lot. Just by listening to the all previous few speakers, I already learned so much. I think it is very helpful. Right? I wish Chinese, I'm Chinese. I wish we Chinese community can do those kind of things too, right? So thank you for that. So in terms of financial, I'm very lucky myself. I consider in this crisis. So finance is never a decision maker in my process. Yeah, because I worked for Qualcomm for many years. So the first things when they diagnosed cancer, my husband quit the job. So he's the one who take care of me, right? And then my young kids was still in college at that time. It is still pretty tough. So because I teach my kids to save, so my older daughters actually take out my younger daughter's tuition and all the expenses. So the burden of the college for my younger one was taken by my older one. Yeah. So this released a lot of my stress for taking the younger one to see how expensive the college is, right? So, because that, I think it's so important. Everybody, we need to start saving early, you know? We don't expect those things happening. Nothing you can prepare. I mean, no matter how much awareness you know, you can't be perfectly prepared. So we teach our kids to start saving early. Like we are from China, we just come from China. We are so poor, we don't have any money, like a lot of Indians or other countries to immigrate, right? So we come here with no money, but after 20, 30 years of hard working, if we really start saving early, start prepare early, with those things coming, at least financially, we don't have to worry. I mean, we can't, sometimes it considered cancer. I think I'm very lucky. I didn't have a very bad cancer. After I listened to all your story, I think I made a lot of cancer. I mean, I know it's cancer, but it's so easy for me because I really had a very good, everything's come out so smoothly. They diagnosed me immediately correctly. I did do this couple of second opinions, right? And then they just a little bit argue with which organ I should take it off. But finally, we just take it off all, right? So it's for me. I did a little bit. In the beginning, denial because is that me? Then, like I said, why it's me? Anger, right? So then I said, okay, I won't. May I die? All those things, but it's very short. It's very short periods. When I'm on the table of the surgery, I was thinking, if I die today, all my family, my kids are all good, I can die. That's what exactly I saw. So I didn't have anything like that. So by this one, I have to sense the people who teach me how to save, to prepare early, all those kind of things. So that's just my 2 cents. If everybody goes saving now, and you need to know where to save, right? A lot of those insurance actually pretty good, right? The health insurance, the life insurance, the long-term care insurance. It will help you go through all your difficult part of the finance, right? And teach your kids to save early, and they can help you when you need. Thank you so much for your.
Thank you. Thank you. Valerie. Finally, in your experience, right, you also come from caring for Murli, a husband, that took some time, and you also were currently that with your kids. My question to you is, I saw you in the years when you worked with Murli, and then even after that, you had to deal with relatives, friends, how families, especially in the Indian culture, how they look at somebody who's going through that situation. Some of them even, as you know, they have myths about losing a husband or losing a wife, how they treat. I'm sure you have been through some of those things from a family relationship, from a friendship. Things change, right? The same people may not behave the same way. They bring different kinds of challenges. You're already going through some challenge, but you have to deal with these new things, right? Can you share some, especially for the Indian community, going to the parties or going to the pujas, going to this, some of the perspective changes in how they treat, right? Can you share some thoughts on if you went through any of that and how, maybe even giving some suggestions as to how to overcome that and be yourself? Yeah, things have changed, but you don't have to react to based on how they are treating you. You can be yourself and go on with your life. Taking that as a pointer, if you can share some thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. Yeah, my husband passed away, it's almost going to be 10 years now. And Sethu was a big support for us, for me, for my family, and my husband. So it's been a strange journey for me, a little different from, we both lost our husband, but there are a few differences. I did get help, not from the people that you would expect help from, but I got help from so many wonderful people from the community. That just gave me energy, even though I got a lot of negative things from people very close to me who should be helping me out, but I got a lot of negative things from them. But the help that I got from people around me, there were some people who I didn't even know, and they were there to help us out. So that generosity, I think that kept me going. I just took one day at a time. I think even after diagnosis, it's just a big bomb, that's it. We could not talk for one whole day, we're just in shock and getting out of it. So all we can do is take one day at a time. There is no preparation for it, because everybody is different. You don't know how you're going to react to these kind of situations. But anyways, coming to his question, in Hindu, especially in Hindu society, there are a lot of, they say tradition, that's linked with widows. So now I'm a widow, not a lady, not just a lady, I'm a widow. So there are certain things that are linked with it. I'm okay if that's their belief. If we go to puja, certain things are not given to you because you're a widow. I think all in our community they understand, which is very hurtful for me because I'm a woman and I want to get that too because other women are getting. And I don't want to be reminded that I'm a widow every single time. I know that already. So I think we need to come out of that because times have changed. Now people cannot be, differentiating with gender or, race. So we need to come out of that and see this as a person. I don't need sympathy. I don't need, because I think a lot of people have taught me to become very strong. Like I said, people who are supposed to be helping me out were not there. They just left like that. I don't know why, I still don't know, and I don't worry about it. But I had special friends who have helped me, and still it's going on. And I have two wonderful children, and they are strong. They're very strong. I think sometimes when you don't have that much help, you bring that strength from yourself and move on. So, yeah, it's, I think we need to just address in our community, women as women, that said, you don't have to categorize them as widows. So, because I'm the mom and father and everything for my kids, so that's who I am. I'm not a widow. So that's all.
Shalini, when the situation happened, I remember her two kids, son and daughter, Neha and Tuhin. They were in elementary school, just getting into middle school, right? They don't know what was going on, right? We used to walk on the beach and stuff like that. But I have to give tremendous, admiration to Shalini, where she was and how she has come along, especially managing the kids. Son is in Stanford. I meet him every now and then. He had finished all his high school courses in middle school. They had to send a special bus for him to take because there was no teacher in the high school to teach him. So he had to be sent to a different school. Now he's in Stanford and helping, he's part of a camp. He helps other families and other kids that they go on trips and helping them. And Neha is doing well too. So she has done wonderful work in spite of this, raising her two wonderful kids and still managing the family. And that's where some of us get the strength, right? We see the hope. We see, at that particular moment, we may see like, oh, my God, what do I do? But we see, we take 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. It's hard for the families, but somehow God will send somebody and some things will happen. And now she must be so proud with her kids being where they are today and progressing so well. And that's the hope. We need to just gives us the energy to keep moving. Thank you for attending. Thank you for yes, move the mic to Mike. You already have that, right? Yeah. So Jim, in your presentation, you touched on some families, or you even mentioned some of your friends who helped you along the process, who used to take you to chemotherapy and all that. I meet a lot of families when these situations happen. It's not that they don't want help, but because in their phase of life, they have not been through this, they are not comfortable. Some of them don't even want to talk about death. In fact, some of the families not here because they don't even hear about cancer, right? That's where we are today, right? That being the case, if you want to, based on your experience going through this for the last few years, if you want to share some thoughts with families, how they can help. Is there a right way or wrong way to approach a family who is going through this hardship? Or some pointers as to how they can come out and help, even just being there, listening. Sometimes, I hear from patients or people going through that, you don't have to call and say, how can I help? You just come and show up and do something, right? So can you touch on that?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because there are certain things that, as a patient, and as a member of a family, you don't want to release control of. And so I think people have to be a little bit careful of going into one space to try to help unsolicited. But that doesn't mean that you cannot approach and figure out what you can do. We had multiple instances. Well, I was absolutely amazed at just the number of people that came out and, well, for example, the thing that basically, one of the things that got us through initially is that somebody at Karen's work set up, there's multiple companies that do that, basically set up a website for helping bring people food. And so between the Qualcomm, and basically a lot of people I knew at Qualcomm and the people at iCorp, my wife's company, they started signing up, and that helped immensely. Just unbelievable. We had also people, and then with Kevin, we were going places. There are multiple times where we're going down to the oncologist, and we're not going to take my 6-year-old down to a thing where I don't know that I'm going to make it 2 months. That's, we can't do that. But we have people that are just, and so what happened was people would ask, but they would not dictate what they were doing. They would ask whether they could help out in this. And so finding something that somebody needs that offloads something that they may not need, they need to offload it. And part of it is getting yourself comfortable with, passing control off of something like that. So part of it has to be you, whereas like some of the people I know, some of my co-survivors, co-patients, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, some people are so independent and they do not want that help, yet family members try to go in and impose to do something, and then that just, the dynamic gets really bad and stuff like that. So there is something to be, when you do need help, be willing to ask for it and see if you can describe. So if there are things you can offload, that you can do it. And you mentioned, you touched on it also, figure out things you can offload, things, because the reality is you're going to need every free moment of your thing to either educate yourself or get yourself in shape or be able to survive it or get through the night. And so there are some things that, you can easily offload, but you've got to get yourself to that point. They have to be able to ask correctly, and there are certain things that if, and part of it, I think and matter of fact, we saw this with both my mother and my aunt in terms of, it's probably better to be open and communicate what's going on and have it build up and then go into crisis and blow up and then end up causing all sorts of problems. I mean, I've seen that, and luckily with, and I was probably, I'm pretty sure I wasn't the easiest to be around in some of this stuff. Absolutely no, it wasn't the easiest to be around some of this stuff. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you can ask, as an outsider, you can ask, what can I help? But figure out what works, but don't impose. And then there's one thing that I'll have to say is, somebody says, well, you've got to try this, stop everything and do that. Those type of things, it never bothered me, but some of the people I know, they get extremely upset when somebody suggests things like that. I mean, for me, I try to say, okay, because there's not science behind it, I'm not going to, I sort of weigh it. But I myself they want to help, and I don't take offense to it. Some people do. And being able to detect that, being able to detect the person that you're trying to help. If they're pushing back, move slow, be helpful, but do not impose. And I think that's maybe one of the fundamental things. Thank you.
So let's move the mic to Sandy. Sandy, in your experience, right, when you were going through hospital visit, talking to the doctor and then families, if you can share that emotion of going through the phase to our audience, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, I think that everyone processes this differently. And when I got my diagnosis, it wasn't like in the movies where you cry. I just kind of received it, and I was like, okay, well now I have to figure out what to do. We'll kind of, we'll figure it out. So I don't think that, initially I really knew how to react. I think that when I had a consult with a surgeon, and one of the things they said was you'll undergo some chemotherapy first, and then most likely, based on your scan, we'll remove a kidney, an adrenal gland, maybe over half of your liver, possibly, and there's the tumor's kind of encasing the primary vein in your body. Then I thought, that doesn't sound very good. And I think that what I got the most upset about and what was the most stressful was that period of time between knowing this and determining the course of treatment and starting that. So one thing I did that was really helpful was I was super open publicly about my cancer. I didn't want to have to think about who I told and who I didn't tell. And this is a special gathering for many reasons, but there are 2 sarcoma patients here. So sarcomas are about 1% of adult cancers. The one I have is called leiomyosarcoma. it's, or LMS, that's about 0.2% of cancers. And so it's one of those things that nobody really knows how to treat. Because of that, I learned it was important to get multiple opinions just because nobody knows how to treat it. So I needed to find out what made sense to me. You know, one of the things that's interesting about navigating this medical landscape is if you grew up in the 70s in the US, there was a big campaign on TV called Stop, Drop, and Roll. So if you catch on fire, everybody knows what to do when you catch on fire. Nobody knows what to do when you get cancer. I mean, it affects 1 in 3 people, but you know, when you're told you have cancer, do you stop, drop, or roll? I don't know. What do you do? So, so I felt like there was a lot of helplessness during that period. I knew I needed to get opinions, but who do I get opinions from? How do I even get to the right people? And then even if I get to them, how do I know that I'm going to make the right decision? So being public with it really helped with that, in that it led people to introduce me to people so that I got different opinions. I ended up getting 4 opinions, and ultimately I have an oncologist that's in Texas at MD Anderson, and I had my surgery here. I think that emotionally it was not too bad once I started treatment, because I could only really manage to take it day by day. And it wasn't until before my surgery where the surgery I was going to have was not without risks. It was a pretty risky surgery. That I had a day where, because I had sort of learned not to think too far ahead. If you think too far ahead, you start imagining your kids' graduations without you, and their weddings without you, and that never leads to anything good. So I kind of learned to just live every day, one day at a time. But before my surgery, I thought, you know, there's a real possibility I might die. I was talking to one of my clients beforehand, and I just said, you know, we were talking about some of the work, and I kind of said, well, I'm not really sure about, you know, just in case you don't hear from me in a few weeks, you know, and it hit me that, wow, I could actually die. Who's going to make these returns, the things I bought, and who's going to make sure that my kids are prepared when they're starting to apply for colleges, all those things. So I think that was probably the hardest time when I realized I could die, but, you know, but I'm here, so.
We are glad you're here. Thank you. So Erin, just expanding on her thoughts about communication, I see families, you know, when they hear the news, some kind of go completely internal. They don't share anything with anybody else. They don't want to ask any help. Some, they're on the Facebook, they publish everything, they want everybody to know. So from your perspective, when you got the news and when you're going through it for the last 3 years, how did you deal with communicating to your family members, your friends, or even the public? How did you manage that?
So for me, I got the call that I was diagnosed with cancer when I was hanging out with a bunch of my coworkers from a prior company from 10 years before. And I instantly lost my appetite. I was sitting there just looking at people blankly and not sure what to say. And luckily, a couple of the guys that were there were closer to me, and I just kind of matter of fact said, yeah, I just got a call to say that I have cancer. And then the next 2 days, I basically didn't tell anyone. And I went back into a shock period where, you know, this was June and I was wearing a coat because I couldn't maintain body temperature and stuff. It was so upsetting to me. And, you know, perhaps with my upbringing where a lot of health issues were kept, you know, quiet, you don't, you know, discuss them amongst outside of your family, you know, it did scare me to, you know, try to figure out now, like, what do I do? Because You know, the amount of family that I have in town is 1/3 cousin that lives about a half an hour away. And the closest family member is my sister up in Oregon, and my parents are in New York. But I called up a not so close friend, and I said, oh, you know, I actually lied. I said, hey, you know, I need your advice on something. Can you come over to my house? I just wanted to talk about an HR issue with you. And, because she was in HR, and so she came over, and I just needed a hug, and I just broke down. Because after 2 days of keeping it inside, just not knowing how to tell somebody, it wears you out. And, you know, I was single at the time, not even any girlfriend, I'd never been married. It was extremely difficult because I didn't have the inner circle that a lot of people have in the way of a spouse, kids, close brothers and sisters, because I wasn't very close to my sisters at the time. And I just kind of exploded with the news. I told more people than in hindsight than I really should have or wanted to, you know, at this point. But I did tell people at work. I told all of my close friends. I told my parents, and I think that took like 3 or 4 days before, you know, I called them up because I knew that my mom would take it pretty hard. And just having those friendships were so important. Like, you gotta have somebody there all the time. I mean, including like I had a list of people on a text message, and I'm like, look, I just want to know that if at 2 o'clock in the morning, if I send out a help me, you know, message, that someone will show up at my door. Sorry, can you read the question again?
About the communication, how you get communication.
Yeah, and you know, like Jim, I was very introverted. You know, when I joined Qualcomm 12 years ago, I had started to become less introverted. And now I'm very extroverted, because after you've been laying naked on a table with 5 people around you, including your little sister, while you're being irrigated, you know, you just don't have much of any kind of, you know, fear of anything. Yeah. And, you know, one of the things perhaps I'd like to communicate to you all is that, you know, I'm actually very much an optimist about stuff, and not just because like the survival rate for my cancer is 99%. You've got to remember that includes all the people that they catch long before they hit stage 4. But you know, 1 in 3 people will get cancer. You know, and actually, just remember, I'm an optimist. Like, we're the lucky ones, right? Because think of all the people that die of a heart attack. You know, get hit by a bus, die in a plane crash. I mean, sure, it's a lot fewer or whatever, and you might think, oh, that's a, you know, like I just want to die in my sleep. It's like, I want to die after I got to say goodbye to everybody. You know, think about the time that you do get to spend with all the people that you love and get to tell them, you know, what you want. I'm lucky that, you know, I got my diagnosis at 45, and I can live such more empathetic life, you know, showing my emotions to other people. And enjoying, hopefully, what will be the second half of my life. So, I think
No, that's the wonderful message to all of us. You know, taking pointers from Namrata and you, 2 things, right? We think something bad has to happen to live well, or we need to wait for a moment, or when something bad happens, to do well for others. We don't have to wait for those situations. We could be doing this all the time, right? And that's the learning, hopefully, from this experience sharing. We all learn that every moment is important. You know, we have to live the moment, we have to enjoy it, we have to be thankful to what we have, right? There are worse scenarios. So that brings the perspective.
sorry, I was just looking at the notes that I'd written down. I just wanted to mention a couple other things. the friends and family, they're just as much of the recovery and curative process than the doctors are. Having someone, especially in the workplace, that knows what's going on is really important, because like 2 days ago, I stood up from my desk and I collapsed back into my chair because I did not have the energy to stand up. And my oncologist has been just amazed at how strong I've been during this time where, some other men that are on the ADT treatment that I'm currently on, they can't even get out of bed in the morning. And, I lost the positive attitude in my life for the past 3 weeks just due to some other unrelated personal stuff that was going on. And, it really showed me how important it was to just have a positive attitude on everything, because when that positive attitude changed, that was the only thing that changed. And for 3 weeks, I was, collapsing for lack of energy. I was, taking longer naps in the afternoon. It was, it was tough. And I think that was it.
Thank you. So now, I know when we are rearranging the table, we'll play the video. But if you can take a minute when I'm organizing these questions that came from the audience, which I'll read out and get quick answers. But if you can take a minute and cover the most important mission, what you're doing, in the meantime, I'll organize the questions, okay?
All right, first of all, sorry for our loss. Everyone who passed away with cancer is not just that person's loss, it's all our loss. I lost my father to glioblastoma, and I know I was that child for my mother, my brother and I. And my brother's a neurosurgeon, and he couldn't save him. And my wife there, she lost her mom to lung cancer. So I don't know how I was going to make myself relevant in this conversation, but I didn't come here with this in mind. There's a lot of loss in cancer and other disease, but there is something that one can gain from this. It's about loss of life, but there's also some loss of life can be life for other people. 2005, my dad passed. 2014, my brother, the neurosurgeon, came to me to save his life because he had chronic kidney disease, and I gave him my kidney. And the common theme all over here is fear. None of us wants to speak about death, at least in our communities. Death is a no-no to speak about, so organ donation doesn't even come into play. And I took it on myself since I gave my kidney, 5 years on now. I've been on the road with my wife in our own car. We've driven 42 countries, spoken to 72,000 people like this. And the message is this: don't fear death, because the less you fear it, the better you live in your life. Don't fear giving up an organ to save somebody you love, because my brother had great doctors, a great family, but what he had was my love for him as well, so love will eventually triumph. 2, we're all going to die. That's something we have in common. So if we can go away giving somebody a chance to live a better life, then I think that's something one has to think about. And to make that happen, even if you've signed up to be an organ donor in your driver's license, the magic will not happen. The secret sauce of what happens after you sign up is have conversations with your family about what you want to do. Because 3 days ago I lost a friend. I know he was an organ donor, but his son had no clue, and that was just a waste. So please have conversations with your family about the fact that you want to be an organ donor. And there are a lot of cancer patients who can live with your bones. If you donate bones, it can bring back life. We donated my father's eyes, and now somebody's out there, at least 6 people out there are looking through it. And you can donate your eyes, anything that you can donate. It doesn't matter what kind of illness you have, let the doctors decide if it's useful. Just think about being a donor. And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, going from community to community. It brought me here to San Diego. We're on our way to Argentina now, and next year we'll be in Africa. Hopefully I'll have talked to 100,000 people, which is my goal. Thank you for listening.
Sorry, I'm just gonna jump in really quick here, because you brought up the word fear, and it was on the ride over here that, I wasn't sure how much time I would get a chance to talk, but I was thinking to myself, and I came up with this in the car, do not live to fear, do not fear to live. Live to love, and love to live.
Oh.
5 months ago, my doctor told me I have an enlarged prostate. I don't want to know. I have another mission. Let me finish that first, and we'll figure out this one.
Thank you, and give a big hand to Anil. I know I talked to Anil just yesterday, we didn't have a lot of time. I'm trying to set up another session tomorrow evening, possibly in a different location, giving 1 full hour to Anil. So any of you interested, please join. I'll share that information after I prepare the flyer after this event. So we'll get together.
I promise it won't be solemn.
Yeah.
Think of it as you're coming to a stand-up comedy show.
Yeah. So tomorrow evening we'll have that, and thank you for that. So now what I do is, in the interest of time, and we're already running late, but I also need to make sure they have provided their question. We need to entertain them. I do understand we are running out of time. What I'll do is I'll quickly read the questions, and knowing what the question is, if you can raise your hand, who will be able to best answer that very quickly, we'll go through that, okay? So with respect to NETs, are they actually classified as orphan disease, less than 200,000 number? Doctor?
Yes, they are.
They are? Okay. Have circulating cancer stem cells been implicated in the metastasis or at least aggressive nature?
Can you say that again?
Have circulating cancer stem cells been implicated in the metastasis or at least aggressive nature of disease?
So whenever a cancer metastasizes, it is the cells that they broke off from the tumor that will go and invade other organs. There are studies going on where we are trying to see if we can catch this early. That's something called cell-free DNA, but there's no stem cells. Stem cells, I don't think it's like a right word, but the cancer cells will go from where it was formed to the next organ. But there's something called cell-free DNA that we're trying to study and see if we can catch the metastasis early. Did I answer the question?
Sorry? That was my question. Because some of the rare cancers have the circulating stem cells apparently, so I was wondering if this is one of them. Like the pancreatic cancers.
So they're not specifically stem cells, they're like cancer cells just circulating.
Okay, thank you. How much of a financial impact is to treat stage 4 cancer? How much does insurance cover? Okay? Yeah. Go ahead, Aaron.
So for me, I've basically been maxing out my out-of-pocket max insurance for the last 3 years. The total bill to the insurance company versus what they've paid, I don't quite know, but we're talking about like, $500,000 to $600,000, maybe that, got dropped down to, I don't know, maybe 400,000. This is a picture of, didn't quite come up yet. This is a picture of a $10,000 bottle of medication that I get every month. Luckily, insurance has picked up the entire amount. My recommendation is get an insurance company that has the largest network. I can go to Sharp, I can go to UCSD, I can go to MD Anderson Scripts, and make sure that you know how it works. I am counseling a guy right now with prostate cancer, and his insurance that he got through, whatever, doesn't cover any imaging. It's like, come on, this is the 21st century.
Okay, give you a concept. Every one of my cycles, the discounted rate's about $110,000, $115,000. So I took, that's every 2 cycles? No, that's actually every 2 infusions. But okay, the other thing you basically, 1 infusion, you've maxed out.
you basically maxed out. The good thing is you don't need to worry about, you know, whether copays. You just gotta convince somebody not to have to pay the copay. The other thing that I actually kind of thinks, one thing that caught us was kind of interesting is if you're getting approvals for surgery and stuff like that, and they say you've approved it, make darn sure you get it in writing from the insurance company. Because we had the situation, I went for my cryoablation, they said it was approved, then all of a sudden the insurance company turned back and said, no, we think it's investigation, we want to charge you $20,000 for the surgery. And at least the hospital went to bat and somehow it disappeared. But there, and also like for sarcoma patients, at least UPS, they don't want to do PET scans because CAT scans are supposedly good enough. So you got to, yeah, there's all sorts of hoops you need to flow through. So I mean, you know, luckily, yeah. Well, you want to talk about fear? One of the fears in our group is if we lose the pre-existing condition protection. That is one thing that, you know, you want to basically totally put us on edge. Take away our pre-existing condition and knowing that, you know, insurance company can go belly up. Something like that. That's not to just drive you nuts.
Thank you. Expert doctor appointments, follow-ups seem so hard to obtain. Why?
Yeah, it's very challenging. I second that. We at Stanford try to accommodate, like sometimes we go out of the way to see patients on our non-clinic days, but I would say whenever someone has a rare diagnosis and you're thinking of having like a second opinion, just jump on it right away. I mean, even days matter. And sometimes I would say keep calling. A lot of times my patients will just cancel last minute. And if you tell the scheduler that you are available to be there in a certain amount of time, like put me on a cancellation list and there's a last minute cancellation, I'm ready to come in 5 hours. So I think those things help. Because there aren't many experts, especially for rare tumors, the appointments can sometimes be challenging.
Okay, I think one more question for you. How much of information or tests available on early diagnosis of cancer, especially for the family members, inherited cancer or pre-diagnosed because of a family history?
So again, we have guidelines where we know who to send. So we have like, we know we're talking about the familial disorders. If we have a patient that has a germline BRCA mutation, we absolutely send them to cancer genetics. Then the responsibility falls on the patient to have their family. We cannot recommend that to the family, but they have to. And we make it very clear to them. But then there are some patients that fall out of this typical box. Like we have a patient who has 3 cancers, personal cancer history, but they are not yet known to be linked together. Or they have multiple family history of different cancers and they're not linked together. We do ask them to sometimes go and check with the cancer genetics. And they will run a panel and they may say, as of now, you do not have something that is passed from one generation to another, but it's a good idea to check in like a couple of years. We may know a little bit more at the time that may change what we're telling right now. So yes, ask all these questions. I think they're all very relevant and very important.
Great. Last question to Jim. Obtaining information, records from hospital, anything to help expedite. Insurance aspect of getting second opinion, changing care team, changing treatment plan, etc.
Okay, getting records. Getting records. You know, we didn't have, I mean, okay, getting the records out at the time we were doing it. In hindsight, and I still haven't done this completely myself, but having a binder of the stuff and all the CDs of your scans that you can duplicate quickly cannot hurt. I mean, because getting the records out of, you know, I was getting them out of Sharp, and we basically had a couple of different MRIs and CAT scans that were at different locations, different releases, and it delayed the second opinion by basically about a month and a half. I mean, he took initial results, but he did not basically want to give a final, you know, not final word, but yeah, basically, you know, close out the case until we actually got the scans, and it was basically very difficult. What was the other aspect?
On the insurance part.
Well, I mean, insurance, I mean, luckily, I mean, When I started this adventure, I basically was still on COBRA, so I basically had UHC. We ended up on a small business plan. I mean, the reality is it's still a silver, ACA silver compliant plan, and the reality is it does pretty well, but boy, if we were able to lose that, you want to see how fast we get into bankruptcy?
Okay, so thank you. So that's the end of the second round of questions. So what we will do now is, again, when we disperse, I'll play your video so we can buy the time. So now, on behalf of Srini Eravelli Foundation, I would like to thank each one of you for taking the time, volunteering, coming and sharing with your experience. It's so hard, but you have taken, and you have also shared this wonderful experience. I have no doubt this will be of immense help to our community. We would like to continue to do this type of gatherings, not only just in the event, on a day-to-day basis when we come across families. We want to reach out to you. We can help each other, exchange information. That's where a lot of my strength comes from, like helping each other and sharing from A to B, B to C, C to D. It's all together, right? It works. So I appreciate your real heroes. I'm really proud of you all with all the things you're doing in sharing the information. So we have some small token of appreciation for each one of you. We'll present that to you. But before that, I'll stand here if I can take a group picture. So that will be good for our website. Please, come.